she whispered in my ear and said, "Do you have your medication?" And I sort of smirked, and she said, "What are you smirking at?" And I said, "I haven't been on medication for about 6 months." And I've never seen my mum cry so quick. Like, mum cried when McLeod's Daughters finished. Like, and neighbours and car went missing and stuff like that. Like, she cries at the drop of a hat, but she just completely broke down. And it is a moment I'll never forget. And every time I actually stand in that kitchen, I remember that moment. But I didn't tell her because I didn't want to make a big deal of it. Now looking back, I realised that actually it was a pretty big deal.
Sean, thanks mate. Thanks for popping on through the difficult time at the moment, through this coronavirus stuff. We appreciate you taking the time to jump on the podcast. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. And pretty excited to be here.
Yeah, for sure. Just to give us a bit of an insight, how's 2020 been for you so far?
2020's been pretty good. It's been pretty crazy. We've in the terms of sort of what I do and based around sort of the fitness world, it's ever growing, and being in the fitness business, you ever trying to adapt to everything and to new trends and to things that pop up, especially with this coronavirus at the moment. It affects small businesses and affects sort of everyone around us. So it's been pretty crazy, but it's I'm one for sort of taking every opportunity and just sort of making sure that you make the most of it, and whatever sort of comes your way, you got to make sure that you sort of take it under your wing and do the best you can to change what you need to change and take it on board.
Yeah, and I guess as yourself being the owner of the business, having that leadership stance and making sure your employees are comfortable as well. It's a good period to test leadership.
Yeah, and that's probably the best thing, like testing as well, not only your leadership, but your ability to, make change and be comfortable with change and accept that you've got to change as well. Especially when you own a business, you really have to do that. But this whole virus has really, made me wake up and think, shit, I actually have to do a lot of things to adapt to this, and this might affect me in a massive way. It's not something that's going to go away anytime soon. So over the last couple of years, I've had things that have affected my business, and I've been able to adapt to it, but nothing like this, and nothing that's been sort of so worldwide and so sort of apparent as well.
Yeah, well, it's something that's affecting the world. So, I mean, everyone's struggling. What are some of the things that you're trying to do? I mean, realistically, for people like yourself and people who own businesses, probably the priority is just damage control and just trying to minimize the amount of damage that's happening to your business and to everyone else's. What are the changes and what are the things that you're learning about what's going on and using that in your business?
I think the biggest thing that we're really concerned about is protecting not only our trainers but our members especially. So gyms have a massive protocol on how to keep gyms clean and health and safety and all that sort of stuff. But we just had to ramp that up, tenfold at the moment. And we're not massively concerned that we're going to lose members or we're going to lose numbers or we're going to lose money or anything like that. But the main thing we're worried about is just making sure that everyone that comes through our doors is safe and they feel comfortable being there too. They can, there's a lot of hysteria in the media at the moment, saying not to go to the gym because it's a bad place to go, where germs are going to be more prominent. We want our members to be able to go, no, I'm pretty comfortable with actually going to the gym and being able to attend the gym and really feel good about going to the gym and not stressing about getting sick and being in the wrong environment.
Yeah, it's definitely it's definitely tough because obviously in times like this it's important to maintain your health and maintain that healthy lifestyle and getting sun and making sure nutrition's right, but also staying active. So it's it's a little bit tough when you're told not to go to the gym, but staying active is crucial to maintaining your health and making sure that if this hits and if it gets stronger, you're obviously going to be more likely to get through it okay. Awesome, man. So we always love to go back to really, really dive into your story before the businesses came in, before anything. Take us back to maybe your early teenage years. What was it like growing up? Did you grow up in Ballarat?
I grew up in Ballarat, yeah, Ballarat born and bred. So if you haven't been to Ballarat, it is the coldest place in the world. It doesn't get above 35 and it snows in summer. So born and bred in Ballarat. I had a really good childhood growing up. Great parents. I've got an older brother as well. High school, absolutely hated it. Absolutely hated high school. I loved the social side of it, so I loved to go and I loved lunchtime and kicking the footy with the boys, and year 10, 11, 12 it became about kicking the footy with the boys and going to see the girls as well. So loved that side of it. Hated class. I always thought that school was no good for me and all that sort of stuff. It only took me to sort of 10, 11, and sort of firstly into year 12 to really realise that I need to sort of knuckle down a little bit when it comes to not only sort of going to class and stuff like that, but really respecting the opportunity that I've got to make something of myself. And my teenage years weren't great, so I was going through a lot of stuff which was ultimately going to affect where I ended up. And I pretty much sat down one day and said, I can end up doing something I want and really, really love, or I can end up in jail or worse, dead. So that sort of period of time was a really big wake-up call for me to choose a path, and it gave me that opportunity to make sure I was actually doing something right with my life as well.
Yeah. And was that during school? Like that wake up was during school? And did you decide to stay in school, or did you drop out?
No, I stayed in school. I did year 12. That was one thing I promised Mum. Mum knew that I hated school, and she got the phone calls and the parent-teacher interviews, and she could tell that school just wasn't working for me. But yeah, I did promise her that I was going to finish year 12. I did that. I didn't do school at VCE. I didn't get an ATAR or anything. At the end of year 12, I knew what I was going to do, and that was to be a personal trainer. I wanted to be in the fitness industry. Absolutely nothing else interested me besides being, the full forward for the Western Bulldogs, and I knew that wasn't going to happen because I was spending more time on the bench than I was on the ground. Look, the only thing I wanted to do was fitness, and I had a goal. Even my teachers throughout year 12, they knew that too. They knew I had something that I wanted to do, and they were pretty lenient on me for the sort of last 2 years of my high school. But I was pretty adamant of where I was going to go. Yeah.
When did you do your course? Was it like around the year 12 period?
Yeah, I actually started. It was actually by accident. It was in year 10. I wanted an out of school. Like I just wanted any excuse to get out of class. And there was a TAFE course at another school. I actually remember myself and one of my good friends at high school. We both applied for this TAFE course. And it was literally just the only reason I wanted to do it is just to get out of school every Thursday, I think it was. You got to leave at 11 a.m. and go to this school, and the plan was just to leave school, say I've got TAFE, and go straight home. That was the plan. The course is certificate 2 in community rec. So it had a bit of a sporty thing, and I was interested in sport. I love footy, all that sort of stuff. I started doing this course, and we started going to the gym and doing all this fitness style of training, and absolutely loved it. And straight away I fell in love with it. Probably the best thing about it is I wasn't around anyone I knew. None of the people in that class were close mates of mine or anything like that. So when I was in class, I could actually focus, and it was probably that time of my life where I actually thought, shit, I can actually take this information in and do something with it. When I was around my mates, and this isn't any blame on my mates because I'm still mates with these guys at the moment, but I wanted to be at school for my mates to have fun and to dick around. But when I was in that position where they weren't around, I was actually, I felt like I could gather this information and really make something with it. So
particularly when you're passionate about it too.
Yeah, for sure. And when I felt that love for it, and I started to, even in the gym, we started to do, even push-ups. I think the first thing we did was push-ups, and I was next to this guy, and he did 20 push-ups, and I thought, geez, I reckon I can beat him here. I got like 23 and absolutely nearly killed myself. It was just, I was absolutely wrecked, but I got up and I thought, that's pretty cool. That's the best thing I've done. I'm 15 years old, and I've just bet this guy that's 17 years old, and he's a good footy player, and I've just smashed him in push-ups. So that was a bit of a pump up my own tyres sort of thing, and it made me feel really good because all through high school I was sort of told by teachers that I'm not going to amount to anything, and I'm going to leave and be a no-hoper. And to be honest, I really believed it too. Throughout high school, I thought, you're probably right. I don't have any at the moment. I don't know what I want to do, and I'm probably am going to leave school and just be an absolute dick for the rest of my life, and go through what I'm going through at the moment and just continue on. So
how did you find the confidence? Because I know for myself as well, we get into those high school years where it can be quite daunting coming to the back end of that chapter of your life, and I guess facing reality that the real world's just around the corner, and all those kids at school are going off to college and universities, and you often feel like you're the odd one out. And so how did you take that step from year 12? What was that first step like?
Yeah, it was probably a few reality checks, and probably the biggest reality check that I had was I was in year 10, and I was going through. This is actually before this course started, and I was going through a really rough patch. I was heavily into drugs, and I do drugs before school. I do drugs at school. I'd drink every second night, go out every weekend, all that sort of stuff, and I started to go down a road where I was known by the local police, and people knew me for all the wrong reasons. And me being a teenager, thought, shit, this is pretty cool. I've got this infamy about me that I'm a bit of a bad boy, and I was pretty much, I thought I was unstoppable. I thought that nothing could sort of take this away. And I remember one night me and my best mate at the time, we were driving back illegally. We were in I don't know if it was a stolen car, but it was someone's car. I don't know whose it was. We weren't driving, but the person that was driving picked us up from a party. Had no idea who this person was. Anyway, we drove past an intersection in Ballarat, and there was a massive car crash. It was about 10:30 at night. It was a Friday night. Drove past this accident, and myself and my mate, we actually made a joke. We thought, they're obviously a shit driver. And it looked reasonably bad. There was tow trucks, there's a few ambulances, and anyway we ended up going to this party. I remember at this party I almost got locked up. I was caught trying to knock off a few phones, and I was obviously drinking underage as well. So ended up getting home eventually. Looked on, it was only the start of Facebook back then, so it was that sort of switch between MySpace and Facebook. And there was all these posts saying, rest in peace. I won't say the name, rest in peace. And I inquired a little bit more, and it ends up that the person in this car accident was one of my really close friends, and she was killed. And that was a massive wake-up call for me. Like, I looked at it and thought, look at all this stuff I've done tonight, where really I should be locked up. I should be, in the drunk tackle. I should be with the police, or I should be dead. And this girl that's done nothing wrong her entire life, and is just an all-round great person, has died for absolutely no reason. And the next 24 or 48 hours for me after that was just like, why do you deserve to be here when you do all this shit and you hurt so many people, and you take life for granted, and then good people get their life taken away too. So and she was only 18. She turned 18 2 days before that, so hadn't even got a licence yet. I think her party was about 3 days away. The accident was a complete accident. No one was at fault. It was just one of those things in life. So that was a big wake-up call. And then from there, when I took that course on, and when I felt like I could, really start to learn a few things and make something with what I was learning, then I said to myself, I'll complete year 12 for Mum. I'll make her happy, and then after that, it's pretty much go time.
And how then? What was that step? Starting within the industry.
In the industry, so I started working at a Ballarat gym. I completed my Cert 3 and 4 while I was doing year 11, 12. So Cert 3 and 4. Cert 3 is pretty much so you can work in a gym, and then Cert 4 is obviously your personal training certificate. So travelled down to Geelong, which is about an hour away from Ballarat. So travelled down there 3 days a week to get my certificate 4, and then worked in a Ballarat gym for about 8 to 9 months. Unfortunately, it wasn't a great environment that I was in, and it sort of put me back to that sort of thought that I was going through in high school, where I wasn't good enough, and what I was doing was a complete waste of time, and that I was a waste of time, and that I should just, do something completely different, do something normal, and go get an apprenticeship or something like that, and just sort of follow the crowd, and that was a really, really tough time for me. Luckily, I had some really, really good clients at the time, and they enjoyed the style of training that I was doing. They were getting great results, so I sort of took the punt and left that gym, started doing boot camps and stuff like that. So I went around town and did some hill sprints and stairs, and then I went to Mum and said, "Can I go down to Rebel Sport and buy some dumbbells?" And I set up a bit of a gym in her garage. And then started doing personal training out of Mum's garage. So that's pretty much where it all started. But basically that sort of jumped from year 12 to jumping straight into it. I had a lot of mates that were they went straight into full-time jobs, and they were making really good money. And I was sort of that guy that was starting this business, and I had absolutely zero idea how to start a business. And I thought, when I made $100, I thought I was an entrepreneur, and I thought I could do business coaching, and I thought, I'm pretty much Russell Brunson and stuff like that too. So I was confident, but at the same time, I was super alone. Like, it was a really, really lonely process. As much as I love my mum, and she's been a great sort of support, she was very doubtful of the whole thing, and she told me, she's like, just go get a job, go get a job that's going to pay you every week, because 1 week you might be all right, and the next week it might not be, and you can't live like this. And but that passion of absolute, training people and doing fitness, that's what got me through. And think, I'm not making much money at the moment, I'm not doing much at the moment, and I'm super lonely, and it's really, really hard to run a business. But in 1 year it might get better, in 2 years it might get better, in 5 years it might be absolutely amazing. So
was that what you were holding on to? Were you just following your heart? You knew you were in the right area, you just had to persevere just make those mistakes and learn from them, build from them, build. Yeah,
and I really did enjoy the process too. Like, there was things that that happened which I just didn't believe were happening to me, and I thought, there's got to be a reason for this. There's got to be a reason that this is affecting me in this way, and I sort of tried to take everything on board, and I did have a massive passion for it, and I had a passion as well for making something myself. I think that probably came from the fact that everyone in high school, so all the teachers, even friends and family, they didn't think that I was going to be anything. So I had that passion of not working for anyone, not for being that, not having that sort of arrogance, but I wanted to do something that I could call my own. And I had opportunities to work in other gyms, and I got offered places at other gyms, but I just had that drive to do this myself. I wanted to, if I was going to fail, I wanted to do it on my own merit. If I was going to succeed, I wanted to be, through my hard work and through my passion as well.
Yeah, for sure. What age were you at this point?
I was probably just on 18, I think. Yeah.
And how was the party scene through this age? Obviously, we touched on the car accident that night. You were getting into a bit of trouble. Did that continue for much longer?
It didn't continue as bad. I probably got to the age of probably just prior to my 18th, and I stopped getting into drugs as much as I was. It went from every single weekend, even every sort of second or third day, I was doing something, and then I started to think about my business a little bit more, and I started to focus on what are the possibilities of where this business could go, and so that did slow down a little bit, but it was definitely still there, and I started to hang around with a few people at the time, which they weren't the best influence on me, and I wasn't sort of taking control of my actions at the same time. So, between 18 and 19, I was still going out partying every weekend, and I still thought I was untouchable. I had this business and I had a personal training career, and unfortunately Ballarat's a very small town. So if you're going out and you're on drugs, it gets around pretty quick, and it's not the greatest look when you're a personal trainer either. So that was a sort of a moment for me too. There was an incident where I actually did get locked up. And this was when it was actually my 19th birthday party. I got locked up that night, and it got around faster than fire. Like it just went around super quick, and it actually turned out that I was actually training a police officer that was working that night. She was one of my clients too. So, and fair to say, I lost that client the next week. So, and that was probably one of the biggest wake-up calls I've had, that I need to sort of reel it in and get my shit together, pretty much. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it's really tough, man. Like I can see so many common themes. Like you're feeling lonely. There's a lot of head talk in there, especially coming from really you haven't long been out of school, where you've got teachers saying that it's you can't make it, or putting that negativity into your head. You've got your mum who is only trying to protect you, and look, man, my mum's the same. I think a lot of parents just want the best for their kids, and sometimes that requires safety, and in their head is just they just want you to be safe, and sometimes that looks like going back and getting a traditional job or taking a step back, and plus the loneliness as well, and on top of that the drugs and the environment. So I can see a lot of those things just stacking and stacking and stacking, and you obviously battled with that a lot. How was that period?
Yeah, it was a pretty rough period, and depression and a lot of anxiety and stuff like that did come pretty heavy. And it was the loneliness was probably the biggest thing, and it doesn't even mean sitting in a room by yourself. That's loneliness. But when you're trying to create a business and you're trying to expand it, and your family doesn't really help you along the way, or your mates don't really believe in you. And I had mates at the time that were pretty much taking the piss out of me for starting a business and for doing personal training, and I had relationships which were breaking down because I was spending too much time working and stuff like that too. So that loneliness there was something that really, really affected me. And I thought, I'm trying to do all these great things. I'm trying to start a business. I'm trying to start a career, and there's just no one there. And there's no one there to, there's no fans there, if you'd say that. So anyone that's sort of starting a small business, you've always got those sort of fans at the background that sort of push you along, but they're not actually there with you. And this is probably a big thing that I sort of realised that I don't need at all. And this was probably only in the last sort of 3 or 4 years, which I've thought, it's not about that. It's about what I want to do and how I can actually help people that are actually contributing to my services, more than trying to get 1,000 fans that love my business. It's about more about the actual service that I can deliver to people that are actually investing, not only in myself but in my business, in my trainers as well. So that was a massive thing, and I started to realise that I needed to sort of forget about all the outside noise, and all the doubt and all that sort of stuff. And I went through a period where I was trying to prove people wrong, and that was probably the worst period that I've ever had in my career, because I was doing things I didn't want to do just to prove people wrong. And then I was actually at a mentorship program with Tony Doherty, who owns Doherty Gyms here in Melbourne, and he said one thing. He said, "Don't prove people wrong, do things to prove yourself right." And I left after that, and I was just absolutely gobsmacked. Like, I thought, wow, that's actually like super powerful when it comes to absolutely anything. I was so focused on, there was all these people in the background that said I wasn't going to make it, wasn't going to do this. And I was doing little things, saying, "Oh, I'll show you, I'll do this, I'll make this better." and I completely lost touch with what I actually wanted to do, and the end goal and the dream, and my passion as well. Like, I was doing it for them. Like, really, they're sitting, they don't give a shit, to be honest. They're sitting back and doing their own life, and here's me working hard and hard and hard, trying to make them happy or trying to impress them. And at the end of the day, it's not going to change their opinion of you anyway. So that was a big wake-up call for me, just to focus on what I wanted to do for myself and for my clients, and creating a service for my members as well.
That's a really good, I mean, I can see from the outside looking in how crucial that would have been for your business, and whether the change happened straight away in terms of then performance and how you grew, or if it took a bit of time. But that mindset shift, because as business owners, especially single business owners, when we rely so heavily on it and we're alone in it, and there's those people putting in their 2 cents, but it's like they come in, they see something, they put their 2 cents in, and they piss off. You can really, as a business owner, you can take that on board, like, really heavily, and look at that and go, but you've got all these other things going on, and it's kind of like, fuck, like, you almost can't win sometimes. And you lose sleep over it, and it becomes so tough. And I think that's really important for people to know as well, for supporting friends or family or people you know who have businesses, is that it's tough. Like, it's really tough to start and run your own business, and that support is so crucial. So some people can switch it off, but there's a lot of people who take that on board, especially when it's with people who we care about, and it can affect the shit out of you. I know I've had it in the past, and it doesn't stop sometimes. It's
probably one thing I'd say to anyone that's either got a business and he's feeling that thing, is that nobody's going to be as passionate as you about your business. Like, you can sit there and work for 5 hours on your business, and someone will say to you, what the hell are you spending so much time on it? But you don't even see the clock tick over. Like, you're just absolutely passionate about it. And that's what I've that's been my mindset. It's not even your business. I've got one of my coaches that she coaches a netball team, and she gets pretty upset sometimes when that all of her players aren't sort of putting in 100%, and the coaching staff aren't sort of helping her out. I said, they don't have the same passion as you do for what you're doing, and you can't be expected that everyone's going to have the same passion for your business, for your sport, whatever you're going to do, for your podcast even, as you do. Your friends might think you're crazy for flying all the way down here to Melbourne to do a podcast, but you guys have got the passion, you know what you want to do, you've got that end goal, you've got that dream, so you'll literally do whatever you need to do to get there. So that was a big thing for me.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, we're talking about how lonely business can be. Did it get to a really bad point? Was there a point that sticks out the most?
Yeah, it did. I went through. It was probably between. It was after that actually incident where I got locked up, between sort of 19 and 21. A lot of things started to spiral. I had suffered depression between sort of 17 years of age to about 24, so I was pretty heavily medicated throughout the whole time. There was, many instances. There was probably one big instance where it was pretty close to me, but not being here anymore, and for me to take my own life. And those instances, they were sort of created not by an event or not by sort of a something that's happened in my life, but it was just something that I just didn't see another way out. My business was going really well. I was in a good relationship. My family loved me. I've got an absolutely amazing family. But depression, it doesn't sort of cater for that. It doesn't really give a shit about what's going on in your life. There was times where I just thought, all right, that's it. Yes, there's all these positives, but I don't see that at all. I don't. Yeah, exactly right.
So what was that point? What was going through your mind? So what was the event? How did you pull yourself back from it?
Yeah, the event's actually, at the end of the day, it's got a bit of a funny anecdote to it. So it's I remember it was actually a Sunday. It got to a point where I'd work Monday to Saturday, really, pretty hard, work a lot of long hours, and I didn't have the gyms at this point. It was just personal training clients, and then every Sunday I would just take off. And I thought this was the best thing for me. I'd drive down to Melbourne, I'd just get my car and just drive drive for hours and hours and hours. And there was one Sunday where I was, this was actually near Ballarat. I was sort of forward driving, and I was going through some bushlands, and I was going through a really, really tough time. And most of the times on this Sunday drive, it was probably the worst thing for me because it was just me in my head talking to me the whole time. And it was a pretty tough time where I didn't, I wasn't seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. I wasn't seeing things that were going to get better, and I wasn't in any financial trouble or anything like that. But I wasn't progressing in life, and I wasn't getting any better, which is where I sort of wanted myself to be in that time. So I was actually out the bush, and I was just sobbing. I was non-stop crying, and I just didn't see any sort of light whatsoever. I remember I was pulled over, and there was a bit of a clearing there, probably about 50 metres, just a clear spot in the middle of the bush. And I remember seeing this massive tree, like it was this really, really thick tree, and that was literally the only thing I could see. I had no music on, I couldn't see anything else. I just saw this tree about 50 metres in front of me. The car was still on, and I had absolutely no thought. I just floored it. So, foot to floor, as fast as I could. I think I got to about 80, 90 k's an hour, reasonably quick. It was obviously on a dirt track, so I was bouncing around everywhere. And I just remember sort of gripping the steering wheel. I don't know if I was happy or laughing or smiling or crying. It was just a total sort of rush of emotions. And then I actually remember clunking really bad, and as soon as I clunked, I thought, I've hit it, and I'm like, that's it, I've done it. And I bounced off, and then I remember sort of going sideways and hearing this big scratch and crash, and I woke up and I sort of opened my eyes and realised that I'd actually hit a ditch just before the tree, and the tyres have sort of spun out, and I've literally just missed it by, half a metre. So I've hit this little ditch, and it's controlled this entire car, and it's moved to the side. And the first thing I did was get out and make sure my car was okay. And I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? I've just checked if my car's okay. I was just about to run into a tree. And it was actually a reasonably new car, and that's what I did. I got in, oh fuck, I've scratched my car. Yeah. I closed the door, checked all around, then I looked up, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I'm making sure my car's okay, that I haven't scratched my car, which it was very much scratched. And I was just about to completely total it. And I got in my car and I laughed for about half an hour, and then drove home and sat mum down and said, I need some more help. And I spent the next couple of days in hospital and just sort of talking to medical professionals and stuff like that too. So a bit of a funny end to that story, but that was a big moment that I will never forget. And I still actually, it is near Ballarat, so every now and then I'll drive past. In fact, I drove past it yesterday morning, the entrance to this sort of bush, and I just sort of think about it, and it sort of comes back to me, and I'm probably a little bit more, I think about it in hindsight and think it was probably a really good thing that it happened. I mean, obviously it was good that I hit the dish and bounced off, but it's something that I'll never forget, that I can really think back on and think, I don't want to be in that moment again. And if I ever feel like I'm in that moment again, don't go for a drive, go and see someone, Don't go for a Sunday cruise, and because, I didn't think I was going to come back.
Yeah, that's the toughest thing, man, is when you're in your own head and it just goes down and down, and it becomes more, it just emphasizes those thoughts. And that's really crazy. It's I hear a fair few stories of those freak accidents happening just before that point, and just it was like Travis, who we had on. It was like he was standing on the cliff, and then the only number that he didn't block, that he didn't even realize, called him just before. And it's I mean, what can you bring that down to? I mean, it's always going to be a mystery, and it's obviously a huge blessing that happened to you, and it's obviously a great wake up call. And when I'm not sure if those times come back even now, but I'm sure even after that you still had your ebbs and flows for sure. And you said you always make sure you go and see someone. Is that professional help? Is that just going to the gym, going and having a beer with some mates? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I think after this instance, it was a lot of professional help. I talked to a lot of people, and I talked to my brother. My brother has saved my life more than I can remember, and I did try and focus a little bit more on the gym as well, because I knew that was my happy place, and but it's also work at the same time. So any sort of personal trainer out there will say that it's great to go to the gym, but when you work at a gym as well, it's hard to sort of you're there, you're working, and you're trying to get a good session in too. So it's I tried to sort of do my own thing and stay active and keep a sort of healthy lifestyle, but it was definitely a lot of professional help after that. And then obviously I was medicated throughout that whole process, and I knew how much it did help. I knew how much it was really, really vital to making sure that I'm looking after myself when it comes to taking my medication, and keeping a healthy lifestyle, and not putting myself in situations as well. That was a big one. And look, things progressively did get better. I found that passion again for work. I started to get more into the gym and more into work. There was still that sense of, there was a few times where I was super lonely and I didn't know where I wanted to go in life. And, any business owner will say that, you've got times where you think, fuck it, I'm not doing this more, it's too hard. Even if you lose one client, you think everything's fucked, and hindsight, obviously it's not that, but, business is super tough. So mixing that with, being medicated for depression and stuff like that it's not a great mixture, running a business and having, mental health issues, but it's sort of at the same time, it's probably the only thing that got me through it as well, because I had that purpose. I had that purpose to get up and go to work, and I had people that relied on me. I had my parents that I wanted to make them proud, and I wanted to do things for them and make sure they were happy, and they, their investment in me to not go get a degree at uni or anything like that, and they tried to push me to do that, and I said no, I don't want to do it. And to me, that was sort of an investment in me, and they thought, if we let you go and do this, in 10 years, please repay us. Please go do something with it. So, and that was sort of my drive to just sort of keep on going and follow my dream, follow my passion.
Was there a point where, I don't know today, but where the meditation stopped?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I actually remember the day. This was another day that I remember very, very vividly. I was actually just about to go away. I was about to go to Falls Creek with my partner at the time, and we were packing our bags, and I was still living with Mum at the time. I was probably just shy of 21, I think. So we were packing our bags. I went down to the kitchen and went to say goodbye to Mum, and she sort of whispered in my ear. She was always very, she didn't want to sort of say it out in the open that I needed medication. Obviously my girlfriend at the time knew that I was on it, but she whispered in my ear and said, "Do you have your medication?" And I sort of smirked, and she said, "What are you smirking at?" And I said, "I haven't been on medication for about 6 months." And I've never seen my mum cry so quick. Like, Mum cried when McLeod's Daughters finished, like, and neighbours and car went missing and stuff like that. Like, she cries at the drop of a hat, but she just completely broke down, and it is a moment I'll never forget. And every time I actually stand in that kitchen, I remember that moment. But I didn't tell her because I didn't want to make a big deal of it. Now looking back, I realised that actually it was a pretty big deal. But I started going to doctors and said, look, I do actually feel really good, and I know the dangers of just going straight off medication is extremely dangerous. So I knew I couldn't do that. So very, very slowly I weaned myself off them, and there was a good 6 month period where I was just completely off. that's when I told Mum, and she was absolutely amazed. And you know, of as I said before, like I've seen her break down, but it wasn't a sense of sort of emotion. It was just more proud that I've gotten through this really, really dark period, and I haven't had any medication since. So that was a huge moment. I've definitely not, you know, there's no cure. I don't think there's not. There hasn't been a time between now and then when I thought, no, I don't have depression, I don't have mental health issues. There's definitely mental health issues there. I think everyone has some mental health issues, but it's never got to that point where I thought, right, I need to go see another person. I need to start getting back onto medication.
It's really interesting because I want to dive in now to how do you overcome those mental health issues now? As their routines, are you very self-aware, conscious of how you think, feel, know when to pull the handbrake on and take a couple of days off work? Like, how do you cope with those now?
Yeah, I'm probably massively self-aware, and that's probably something that I really, really focus on as well when it comes to work. And you know, I do a bit of travelling for work as well, so making sure that I'm not sort of burning myself out, and I'm not putting myself in a position where it's going to cause some issues. And also, you know, just doing things that I love to do. You know, whether it be at the gym or go train, spend time with the kids, you know, that's hands down my favourite thing to do. Making sure that I'm making time for those things and doing stuff that makes me happy. And, you know, generally looking after myself, you know, not putting too much pressure on myself to, you know, to get a million things done at once. You know, I've got a reasonably busy schedule, but, you know, sometimes you've got to look back and think, yeah, I've got all this stuff to do, but if I've lost the plot by the end of the week, there's no point doing this stuff because it's just going to be all shit. So look at my week ahead and thinking, all right, I need to take 20 minutes here to sit down, meditate, you know, lay down there, look at the sun for 15 minutes and then get back into it. So, you know, little things that will just, you know, have that really big effect on me and everyone around me too. Try and surround myself with really good people, which I do. You know, I've got some amazing coaches at the gyms. I've got amazing members, clients. You know, I love to just be at the gym and be around the classes as well. You know, there's some class where I don't have to be there, but I just go down, there's a stand there and just watch. So they creep in the corner. But it makes me happy. You know, I love to be there and I love to be in that environment around people that are positive and want, you know, healthy energy, healthy vibes and stuff like that too. So yeah, pretty much just create a healthy environment.
Yeah, for sure. We have a lot in common in the gym side of things, and I know how I felt, particularly last year, going through a dark point. We can often load up. We think more is better.
Yeah.
And we can quickly be thinking that the $1 million is the greatest achievement in the world, where like the sense of personal fulfillment and business, you know, those to-do lists and just go and build up and build up and build up and build up. Yeah. Pulling back and actually focus on moving the needle forward for the business.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you really actually find that if you set up an hour to dedicate your week up on a Sunday or a Monday, you actually have a lot more time than you think available?
Yeah.
Like I've done my work within 3 hours because I've known what I've done, rather than procrastinating trying to do 8 different tasks at the one time.
Yeah, exactly right. And that was probably a mindset too, especially when we opened our latest gym, Bendigo. I had this mindset where I was just too busy to do anything. And I was too flat out. I was busy driving up and down and doing this and doing that, and it affected my relationships. It affected, you know, time with my kids, and it was probably only this year where I sat down and thought, you know, really had a look at my week and thought, I don't need to be here at this point. I don't need to be doing that on that day. You know, I can do this from home. I don't have to travel for this. And you know, it went from, you know, driving to Bendigo every single day, or you know, travelling half my day, or doing this or doing that, or doing, you know, phone calls for 3 or 4 hours a day, to, you know, waking up. I mean, even this morning I woke up with my kids. Like I do that once a week because of work, and it's the best hour of my week, and I got more satisfaction out of that than making, you know, 5 phone calls and selling services and stuff like that too. So doing stuff that really does generally make me happy, which is, you know, being with the family, being with the kids. And if you can sort of create a bit of a schedule where you can say, right, 3 or 4 hours here, I'm going to, you know, head down, work as hard as I can, and then that means I'm going to be able to spend 3 hours with the kids in the morning and stuff like that too. So definitely is perspective too. Looking at the things that really aren't important. And I had that mindset. I think I'm going to make $1 million this year. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And then a big thing is when you get home and the kids look at you and you think they don't give a shit how much money I make. Like they really don't care. Like all they care about is that the dad's home and that sort of thing. So I might have had a rough day at work. I might have had a really good day at work. Like I might have sold heaps of membership this week. I'm going to get home and the kids aren't going to say, "Well done, Dad, on selling heaps of memberships." They're going to be like, "Dad, kick the footy with me." And I'm like, "Oh shit, yeah, okay, I'm a human when I get home." So, and they're the really, really good things I enjoy. They're the things that I do all that stuff at work to get home and just to be able to kick the footy and not worry about everything that's going on.
It's that's awesome, man. And finding that balance is I feel like you've hit a gold mine, and it's always a work in progress too, right? And there's always fires to put out and things are always changing, but when you can have those moments, the gratitude is amazing. You can be incredibly grateful, and that's what fills the heart. Going back, what was the way that you scaled your business? Because you've got a few gyms now, very successful gyms. The way that you've scaled, do you remember what made you choose to go down that path?
I think it was when we had the 24-hour gym. So we had the 24-hour gym for about 3 years, and it was going really, really well. And we were at a point where I sat down. So I just want more. I felt like there was definitely more in me, and I was doing a lot of things that a lot of other, really, really motivated people do, and looking for that, not to get rich quick scheme, but looking for something that I can do outside the gym that's going to be, better than what I'm doing now. Because I was working long hours, I was making reasonably good money, but it wasn't where I wanted to be. It wasn't where I wanted to sort of see myself. So I wanted more. I wanted to do more. I felt like I had more in me. And so then I took, I went from the 24-hour gym, and there was a place just up the road that was for lease in the middle of Ballarat. I leased that joint out. He put an ad on Facebook, and within half an hour I had the joint for about 5-6 hours a week. And I had absolutely no idea what I was going to do. I just knew that it had dumbbells, it had weights in it, it had like a squat rack, and that's it. I thought, all right, maybe I can do like a corporate sort of thing down there, so people can come down at lunchtime and do the thing. And then the first class, actually, we had about 15 people booked into this first class. And I remember I pulled over, I was on my way there. It was about an hour and a half before this class started, pulled out a notebook and think, righto, what the fuck am I going to do here? I had absolutely no idea. Like, I've done boot camps before. I can't spend all this money leasing this building and do just boot camps. Like, I've done this before. All these members have done boot camps before, and they're going to think, why are we coming here and paying a little bit more when we could be doing the boot camp that you already deliver? So we already got your service, why are we paying more to do this? So I jotted these things down and thought, all right, we'll see if that works. We'll give it a crack. Did the class, and it was absolutely amazing. And I went home and I thought, shit, there's something in this. The formula that we've created with FX3 is completely different. It's really, really unique to sort of everything that we've ever done before. So I did it, went home, I thought, right, if I'm going to do this, I've got to do it big. So, I started an entire new company, really sort of, went sort of 10x on everything. Just thought, if I'm going to do this, I've got to do it, tenfold. We've got to make sure this is right. Build a sort of a social media around it as well, and just start to create something in Ballarat, especially where we can sort of grow this to a really, really big level, while sort of still having the 24-hour gym at the same time. So that grew. That got really, really big, and we started to get a lot of numbers in, and it was expanding rapidly. And I just had that belief where we could just continue it on, and we could become one of these big ones like F45 and Body Fit and stuff like that, which those guys are obviously doing an amazing job, and their sort of their formula is it's really motivating to see how far sort of they've come with where they started. So I thought, why not? Why can't we do that at the same time? Why can't we create something that's like that? So about 2 years later, I took my Ballarat manager up to Bendigo. We just went for a drive one day, and saw a shed up there and just thought, right, let's give this a go and give it a crack up in Bendigo. And a couple of weeks later, we were opened up there. So sort of copied and pasted that formula that we started in Ballarat, and then moved it to Bendigo and doing the same thing. So, but it was just that want for more, really. At the end of the day, it was, I love working. I love to do stuff. I love to challenge myself, and I love the process of like failing stuff and thinking, all right, that didn't work. Let's try this now. Or, you know, hearing from people and learning off other people as well, about how I could do things differently, how I could do things better, learning off even my other coaches and clients and members and stuff like that. But I love to just have a challenge in my face and then just be thrown under the bus and figure out how to get under, pretty much. So, and it was a big call. Like it was a pretty big move because we were pretty comfortable. We were going really, really well in Ballarat and gym, and my mum again piped up and said, "Oh, maybe you should just keep doing this, and you know, you're doing really well." And I thought, yeah, I could, but there is this opportunity as well, and I'm going to kick myself if I don't do this. Absolutely. So, and I've got that sort of mindset where if I get an idea, if it doesn't happen in 6 months or 12 months or 3 years, it'll probably happen. So, and that's probably where, like the Shaka project, that was another thing. You know, that was in my head for 3-4 years. I thought one day I'm going to do this, one day, and then finally I'm like, all right, today's the day.
Yeah.
And cracked into it.
And I love this story because I've heard this story of the Shaka project before, and I'd love for you to tell that story. But was the Shaka project, was that just an idea in the head originally, and then like leading up, and then what made you decide to pursue it? Yeah,
so the original idea, it was always going to be around mental health. And it was, I wanted to do, whether it be, you know, we did a lot of events in the gym. So we did like charity boot camps and charity classes. We did a 24-hour treadmill challenge, all for Beyond Blue. So everything that we ever did was always around mental health. And I thought, look, it's great to do events and it's great to do stuff, but I want something that's going to be a really big legacy and that's going to actually ignite something, and not going to be sort of a one-off event. So I thought that the best way to do that is, you know, through apparel or through something that we can actually deliver to someone and then they can share it with other people. The Shaka is actually, the story of the Shaka is, my son was actually, we're at a playground, and he came off a slide, and anyone that's a parent will know that, you know, if a kid comes off a slide and you're about 30-40 metres away, you sort of think, do I really need to go over there to make sure he's okay? Like, it looked okay, like I think he might be all right. But what he did, he came off, it didn't look too bad, he came off, and he looked over to me and actually threw up a Shaka. Yeah. And I threw up a Shaka as well. And he did that, I'm like, wow, we just communicated really well, like, through that. And that's when I thought, well, that's the best way blokes or men or anyone can just communicate and start a conversation. So I thought, if I'm going to start something which is based around starting conversation or saying something without actually necessarily using words, then why not use the Shaka? You know, I was always doing the Shaka to mates and all that sort of stuff, and I thought this is a really good way just to, you know, get people to understand that, you know, if I'm wearing a Shaka and I see someone walking down the street wearing a Shaka, that guy knows that, you know, mental health is definitely real, and that it's okay to, you know, come and talk to me, and I know that it's okay for me to go talk to him as well. So that was the whole sort of point of it, just to get blokes talking. Yeah.
How good's that, man? Because it's like, it's universal code, predominantly in guys. I mean, women use it as well, but it's like, and it's cool as well, and it has its own language. It's just like, it's just that thing that we do, and we do it without even knowing sometimes. And so where has it grown since it started? Yeah, it's grown massively. So but in so many points it's grown. So like the obviously the brand has grown. So we've had, you know, sales from all around the world. You know, from Canada, from USA, New Zealand. We had one from Germany. Obviously, a lot from Australia. So in that way, it's grown dramatically. But
just in the way that it's affecting people has really grown. So when it very first started, I actually launched it for Ballarat. I thought a few of my mates could get involved. You know, we might sell a t-shirt every now and then. I invested my own money in it. You know, I just thought, I've got a little bit of savings here. I'll just throw this money at it and see what happens. And within, you know, the first week, I think we had, you know, 150 sales of t-shirts from all around Australia. The first post that I put up went completely viral. It went absolutely nuts, and we just had order after order after order, to the point where we actually ran out of stock within 3 days. And I had to call the guys and said, you know, we just ordered 3 days ago, but I need what you just did ×2 delivered by next week, because we were selling stuff that we didn't have. So it went absolutely crazy, and I think it was a lot of people that were just they needed something. They needed something to you know, help show someone that they might suffer through mental health, or they want to sort of show people that they are empathetic about mental health as well. You know, it creates an emotion. We've sort of grown in a way where, you know, even to the point where I've got mates that will walk past me and they just throw up a Shaka and just say, "All good, bro. You know, are you doing okay?" And they ask me if I'm doing okay. And actually got a message yesterday morning from one of my good mates, and it was just randomly just checking in, making sure I'm okay and see how I'm doing. And he threw a Shaka in the Snapchat he sent me. I thought, well, that's a good sort of link to what we've done. So the effect it's had on me personally has been massive. I didn't think it was going to grow the way it has, but the amount of people that have messaged me and you know, contacted me and said what you're doing is incredible, and the sort of message that you're trying to get through and trying to ignite people to talk, and a really sort of humbling thing that I got a message a few weeks ago from a guy up in Brisbane. He's probably going to listen to this, because he loves all the stuff that we do, but he messaged me and asked, can you write a message on the t-shirt? So he ordered a t-shirt, and I just wrote, "All good, bro." I think I just wrote, "You're important, you're loved," and signed it and sent it up to him. And he messaged me after and said, "I got it, can't believe it, I'm so excited." And he was just really, really grateful that there was someone that was actually, you know, from a completely different state, that was taking his time out to sort of help him out and to sort of give him this service as well. So yeah, look, it's been pretty incredible. Like it's just over a year since we started it. We've done a lot of community things. We went up to Orange last year, and talked at a mental health event up there, which was extremely rewarding. And we've been to different school communities and done a lot of talks to different schools about you know, mental health, and especially in schools it's super important, I think, because, you know, I went through high school with those mental health issues. I wasn't good enough, and you know, obviously I was going through the times where I was using a lot of drugs and stuff like that too, which affected me. But these days, you know, online bullying and you know, social media is just, it's insane these days. It wasn't as bad as it was when I was in high school. So to get into schools and just tell these kids that everything they see in social media isn't real life, you know, and, you know, if they're getting cyberbullied, then make sure they go and talk to someone. And if you are a cyberbully, then, you know, cut your shit out pretty much, and you know, you need to sort of look at your sort of life at the moment, where you're 15, 16, 17, and high school's going to get tough, and it's going to be tougher as well. It's going to get harder as you get, you know, all through high school and outside of high school as well. So
it's funny, man, because often as well, I mean, exactly what you said. It's now you almost can't escape it. Like everyone's got social media. A very, very small minority of people don't have it. So being on it, you're consumed, and whether it's direct cyberbullying, or it's simply just seeing people wanting that and thinking that you're not worth anything because of that, body composition issues, intelligence, seeing people traveling the world, like it can affect us on so many levels. But have you found when you go and speak at these schools, because a lot of these bullies are dealing with a lot of shit themselves. And often I remember seeing a guy who used to bully me in school, and I wasn't heavily affected by it, but it was definitely tough. But I remember one day seeing him get bullied, and just saw these three guys just drop him and just hitting him over the head, and the fear I saw in his eyes was just like, I had never felt that before. But seeing that, I was like, that dude to me is a bully, but this guy's battling his own shit. And that's really, really tough. And to understand that when you're in school, that bullies are victims in their own rights, and we can't tell what's going on in everyone's life. But have you, I can see that what you're doing is gonna speak to these bullies in a way of not cutting their shit out, but going, hey, I actually need help. Yeah, sure. Like, this is actually me, and they can put themselves in that victim's eyes as well. Which is absolutely fascinating.
And like when it does come down to it, like everyone is fighting their own battle at the end of the day. And even when I was through high school, I wasn't I was never really bullied through high school, but especially not at school. It was probably more outside of school, where there was a little bit of cyberbullying and stuff like that too. But I was probably in a crowd which were sort of those not the jocks sort of thing, but they were the sporty kind and all that sort of stuff. So there was that sort of difference between myself and a few other kids, which they might have been into gaming and stuff like that too. So there was sometimes a little bit of not bullying, but more sort of differences between beliefs and all that sort of stuff. And I sort of always felt bad for being in that position. I don't think I ever personally contributed to anything like that, but I always sort of had that thing in the back of my mind where there's absolutely nothing wrong with these kids. There's nothing wrong with anyone really. At the end of the day, like, the bullies at the end of the day do have mental health issues. Even now, people on social media that outright bully people on, they troll people and they do this and they do that. Some people really suck, but some people have some really big issues too. So, I just saw down in the street before I came up, a woman walked past someone and just bumped them and their phone came out of their hand. And, I thought, wow, that's really, really shocking. Like, that's pretty much physical abuse, what you've just done this random person. But she was obviously very, very affected by drugs and affected by whatever else it might have been. So, it was really, really nasty what you've done, but you've obviously had a really, really tough gig, and there's something that's happened in your life that's led you to this. 30 years ago, you might have been the best kid at school, but now you're walking down Melbourne CBD bumping people because you don't know any different. You've adapted to something that's been affecting your life, and so really you don't ever know. And I went through high school being that kid where I thought I was unstoppable, but when I went home, I cried myself to bed. So kids back in high school probably looked at me and thought, he's got a good life, and I was reasonably popular, and I went to all the best parties and all that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, I went home and I was pretty emotional and hated my life, and went through all those mental health issues too. And it's probably the same at the moment. So a lot of people might look at me and think, oh, he's super successful, he's got all these gyms, he's got an amazing family. But there's definitely times where I sit in my car and just bawl my eyes out and really, really suffer. So it's just trying to sort of empower people, and kindness always wins. I'm a big believer in that. No matter who you are, no matter what you do, and we try and push that as much as we can on the Shaka project, is making sure people know that they are actually important and they're valued, no matter what you do, no matter who you are, whatever your dreams are, or your social stance, whatever it is, there's actually a reason you're here. I've tried to live my life like that. If I've ever doubted myself, I thought, well, I wasn't put here for absolutely nothing. Surely there's going to be something that's come out of this. So that's a bit of a motivator for me too. So
I love it, man. What's next moving forward with the Shaka project? Is it something that you want to spend more time on? Is there a growth plan for it?
Look, we've always wanted to not treat it as a business, because we don't want to sort of treat it like we're making money off mental health and all that sort of stuff, because obviously, there's money that comes in from the apparel. We do spend all that money on, creating community projects and doing stuff like that. But so there's never been really a lot of focus on that side of it, but we want to just grow the content that we can deliver to people. So we want everyone to be able to see, a little message that comes up on the Instagram where they might be having a rough day that just says simply, you are loved, or you are important, or if you need to, please speak up. So we'd rather reach 100,000 more people on Instagram with a message of hope than sell 100,000 more t-shirts. So that's our big thing at the moment, is just to get to as many people as we can, create as much sort of really, really positive content. And I'm really, really lucky at the moment. I've got a great guy that's working for me with the Shaka project, so he's doing a lot of our content, and he's been amazing the last couple of months. And we've been able to sort of share ideas and create more things that we can pretty much just touch more people and just really start to get through to more guys and more females as well, just to please speak up about mental health and go talk to someone if you're suffering. And also, if you are suffering, that it's all going to be okay. Like, there's going to be moments where you really, really shit, and then there's going to be moments where you look back in hindsight and think, I don't know what I was thinking, which is what I do most days. Yeah. If we can have the ability just to reach more people, and just to create a new trend of just being kind to people, helping people out, and not sort of doing stuff for a reward. Not doing stuff in hope that you're going to get anything back. Giving more than you take. I'm a big believer in that as well. So doing something for someone completely random and not wanting a big Facebook post about it, saying how amazing you are for doing this for them. So, which in this world is pretty tough to come by, but it's something that's so important, not only for your sort of self-worth, but everyone else's as well.
Yeah. Tony Robbins touches on it a lot, talking about the impact of giving, and that's like true satisfaction, fulfillment, being able to give and help people. What he does with meals, and it's what you're doing. What about with the gyms? What's next with the gyms?
Survive this virus. That's next. Get through this virus. But we want to continue to open a few more gyms. We've just opened, or we haven't opened. We've taken over the original gym where I first started doing personal training. But Health Studio, which is if you've ever seen Pumping Iron with Arnold and Lou Ferrigno, it's a very old school gym. That gym that they train at in that movie, it's pretty much a spitting image of that. So I started training there after training in Mum's garage. I went there. That was my first sort of old school gym experience, and I just took over that gym a couple of months ago. So that's been really rewarding. It was really a cool thing for me to do, because I started there and I've had the ability to take that over now. So continue to grow that a little bit, and we want to get FX3 to a few different regional towns too around Victoria. Go somewhere a little bit warmer than Ballarat. That'd be nice. We might work our way up to Central Coast and do a few things up there. It'll be even better. Just continue to grow. It's my passion to do more things and just provide for my family, not in a sense of materialistic things, but just being able to give them a really, really healthy upbringing and happy, and give them good life experiences as well. So, spending as much time with them as possible.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's really cool that that's the forefront of your mind and business is second. Yeah. What we love to do is a question we end with is go back to your darkest place, whether it be that time we're about to drive into the car. You can give yourself a lesson from what you've learnt up until now. So, how old were you at the time of the car accident?
I was close on 20.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the last, how old are you now? 26. So the last 6 years, all the experiences you gained, what would you tell yourself?
If I was back then, I'd probably say just do everything you're about to do, like experience everything you're about to experience. And I think I hear a lot of, especially on a lot of podcasts, when people ask stuff like that, like if you're 15 again, what would you say to yourself? And they're like, oh, don't do this, don't do that. But in reality, like if I didn't do any of that stuff I did, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing at the moment. So if I was going to go back to even high school, I'd say, you know, go and do your drugs and go do this and go do that, because it's made you the person who you are now. You've learnt from all these mistakes, you've learned from all these failures. So, you know, get ready, because it's about to be a massive roller coaster. But you know, you need to learn to adapt to this. And
yeah, you know what, man, we've heard similar answers, and more it's becoming so apparent of how great that advice is. Yeah. And you couldn't have answered it any better. And like, I'm seeing books and documentaries on the importance of suffering and pain, and how much you heal from it, how much you grow from it. And I'm finding that in my life, going through these patches and just looking, it's obviously always upon reflection that you realize how valuable those lessons were and how valuable that suffering is. Yeah. But man, if we're constantly in that comfort zone, we're never going anywhere. Yeah. And whether we choose to get out of that comfort zone or it comes on, as I'm sure as it's happened for you throughout this journey, getting out of that comfort zone is essentially the key. Yeah. And sometimes that's in the form of suffering and severe mental health. Others it's relationships, others it's careers completely falling, other times it's viruses that go across the globe. But what I'm choosing to look at throughout what's going on now with this virus is the healing that's going on, both in like saying that China can actually see blue skies now. There's no pollution in the air that's blocking people from actually getting UV into them, because all the factories are shutting down. And so when you focus on those areas, it's so easy to see that going through that and going through all that adversity is so important. And so
learn to love to lose. That's something that I really think about as well. Is, you know, whether it comes down to you've lost in a relationship, or if you're a PT, you lose a client or something like that. I even say to my son, like he plays soccer, and you know, he lost one day and he was really upset. I think, like, use this, you know, lose this loss. You know, it's only junior soccer. He's only 6. Yeah. I said, wait till you lose an AFL grand final. That's even worse. Yeah. But I said, like, you need to learn to love it, because that's the kind of stuff that's going to get you through. And then, you know, 6 months later, when you've completely refurbished yourself and you've recovered from that loss, you can look back and you think, I'm really glad I went through that. If I didn't go through that, if I'm winning my whole life, you know, it comes back to, you know, in schools these days, they're giving everyone's medal for races, you know, a 6th place medal and 7th place medal. I remember I got smoked in athletics every single day. Every single time I went to school sports, I always came 4th and never got a medal. And I always got smoked by this one kid. And now, you know, I've got that sort of competitive edge where I know that if I'm coming 4th or I'm coming 5th, you know, I'm not coming 1st. You know? Yeah, sure. So you've got to push yourself to that limit of creating your own destiny when it comes to actually succeeding in little things and big things as well. So
absolutely, man.
And not be sort of handed to you.
Sure, and because the small things accumulated are actually the big things as well. Man, where can people find you?
So you can find me mostly on Instagram. So the Shaka Project is just Instagram, _ the Shaka Project, and then myself, Sean Weir Fit, which is on Instagram too. So or theshakaproject.com, that's where all of our merchandise is. So if you want to jump on there, but we're very active on Instagram. That's our main source. But yeah, definitely come on and help us sort of ignite that conversation.